de difícil.
Una visa para ir a España.
Una cucaracha.
Ganancho. No pussy for ganancho.
Ah, j'étais de tête.
沖縄はどこですか？
沖縄どこですか？はい、違いますね。はい、次。
Oui.
I think that it's important for you to know a language other than your own because it can help you connect with a person on a different level.
Was gefällt dir?
Fußball gefällt mir.
I want them to become world citizens, not just a citizen of their own community.
We all experience the same things. We all have the same basic wants and needs.
Что вы думаете, можно увидеть в Санкт-Петербурге?
You get to speak with people that you might not have been able to speak with before, learn a little bit more about their culture. It could change your life, learning more about how somebody else lives their life. So I think it's vital.
I'm going to pass you the rubrics on which we're going to be grading your final project. Do you see what Ms. Thomas
Expectations for the artistic, written, and oral components of the task were clearly spelled out in a set of 3 rubrics. For both Spanish and French classes, 1/3 of their grade would be for the written story, 1/3 for the oral component, and 1/3 for the final project presentation.
This is to tell you the importance of your first draft. It says that you have to hand in a first draft. Don't think a draft is a rough copy on which I'm going to correct or edit. It's being graded as a composition, so you have to redraft, rewrite on your own, hand in your best work. I'm going to be giving you about a week to write your composition.
All of us in the language department feel that we get much better results from students if they know ahead of time exactly what's expected. If you know the expectations and the goal, it certainly makes it a lot easier to figure out how you're going to reach that goal.
I want you to go over right now to the rubric, the oral, the read-along component of your storybook. Again, it's another 1/3 of your grade. Very important. You cannot wing this. I need you to, again, like a draft for your composition, I want you to rework your tape to give your best performance for me to hear. And I'm going to be looking for pronunciation. Señorita?
Do you want us to read it like on our level, or do you want us to record it on the tape as though we're actually reading it to a child? Because you know how sometimes you can take that more melody type of voice.
That's a good question. Again, dare I say, it depends on your story or your own style, whatever is most comfortable for you. Some of us do read to a child and we put on different voices. It's just something we naturally do. I'm a mother, I know. It'll be your interpretation. I encourage you to use sounds. Someone falls down the steps, drop a plate, use music in the background. If it would help your story. Anything to liven up that animation.
Our kids see their first rubrics in 7th grade. When they hand in that first poster in a language where you do a family tree and put all the members of your family on it, or you create a shopping poster or a menu from a restaurant, our kids are introduced to rubrics.
How many vocabulary words should we have in our story?
I think about 20. Sometimes you may need more, and sometimes you may need less. I don't want you to force the vocabulary list either.
To better prepare them for the task, students were exposed to models of finished books and tapes from past years. Such modeling gives students more evidence of what the expectations are.
Dice Señora López, la madre de Jesse. El perito quiso masticar. Dice Jesse. Jesse seca el perito con una toalla. Ahora estás mejor. Dice Jesse.
Here the R is a definite American accent. I want you to listen to one other voice.
Es muy fácil.
Fácil. Is that correct?
No.
What should it have been?
Fácil.
Fácil. Again, those are the little parts where I'm going to, if I hesitate, if my ears trip, okay, where does she land? Is she a 4 or 3 or is she a 2 or 3? Depending on the frequency that I hear throughout your taping.
C'est un papillon étoile alors.
Oui.
A performance task allows any type of learner a variety of ways in which he or she can demonstrate learning. Part of the whole idea of a performance task is to give the kids a choice, so that if you have learners who are more visual, if you have learners that are artistic, if you have learners that tend to be more analytical, or perhaps a learner that enjoys performance in terms of acting, all of those strengths you can bring to a performance task.
Some people are good in art, some people are good with the speaking, some with the writing, so I think it's a good deal.
Est-ce que tu as mis les pop-up?
It was actually a really good creative opportunity for me because one of my passions is to write when I get older, and this was, you know, just a start to something, and especially to write in another language and be able to like convey all your thoughts in another language. It really is exciting.
This is the wrong verb. It should be this one. This one's more to save.
To save money instead of to save for oneself, yeah. And yeah, you need indirect object pronouns for this one.
Okay.
Because especially when you say dijo, you always need le or, you know, to who you're saying.
Okay.
To.
That makes sense.
The longest part of preparation for the project was in writing the story. And it goes through a process where the teacher and the peers help each other to develop the grammar that's necessary in order to convey the story in an authentic way with the writing.
Inmediatamente realizó in Spanish, that would be get something done. Okay.
The first composition they hand me, they get a particular grade. I give them back with my scripts on it as to how they should improve.
So, like, the right word will be se dio cuenta. Okay. Does that take an accent?
Unless you make that child rewrite, redraft, there's no writing process going on. And that's what we're also teaching. This goes on in all classes. It should.
When you had said that la abuela was better for the clues, which one did you mean, indicios or clave?
What I wanted to give you was another suggestion. This one, to me, as a native speaker, is more common, more native-like. Claves is like real deep clues, and I thought you may have needed this one instead. It was just a suggestion you can do.
So indicios is okay for this
but
story.
very uncommon.
Oh, okay.
Very uncommon.
The achievement is in the process and correcting the process as they go along. The writing is corrected several times. A draft is done, and it's done again, and it's done again.
How come I can't use this expression? Because when I looked it up in the dictionary, I kind of wanted to say got wind of, se olió.
So they know by the time they finish that project, they're at the upper end of that rubric in terms of writing.
Whereas the other one means...
Se olió means he smelled himself.
Oh, okay.
All along, they've gotten feedback from their teacher, which empowers them because they can go back home, they can then improve it, they can help each other in class and produce a quality product.
Do you think for this one I should put a for personal because ella?
Recibe, the receiver of action being a person, is a quien. And a quien actually is a person. It's personal a.
Ok, bonjour tout le monde. Madeleine, ça va? Bien. Très bien. Tout le monde, ça va? We're going to read to each other today, practice reading, so that when you go home and do your cassettes, you know exactly what I will be looking for when I listen to them, okay? The first thing that I'm looking for is correct pronunciation. You know that in French, that if a word ends in S and the next word ends in a vowel, you're going to do liaison, as in les yeux. The next thing that I'm looking for is fluency. In other words, in your reading. You want, when you do it on the cassette, to sound like you have practiced it, that you won't have any of these uncomfortable pauses. And the third one is animation. I don't want you to sound monotone, and I want you to change your voices for the different characters, right? Ça va? Bon, commencez.
Le stade était rempli, right? A capacité avec des supporters impatients.
When they're practicing their oral reading, they get that chance to listen to themselves, hear their mistakes. They have that opportunity to self-correct or to help their peers. And by the end, most of them are very happy with their product because they've gone through that process.
Il doit y avoir une raison pourquoi ils me détestent, elle en a répondu. Non, non, mon fils. Les autres enfants sont jaloux de toi, a dit la mère.
Très bien.
Merci.
Très bien. I think that this is the most concerned they've been about pronouncing correctly because they were going to actually do it on tape, and it's kind of, very final.
Il cherchait les boîtes et les gardait dans sa chambre. Dans sa chambre, Bernard dans la boîte avait des centaines de boîtes.
And so they wanted to get it right, and I had many more questions than I've ever had about liaison, where you link the words, and just about pronunciation in general. And so I really think it increased their interest in how to correctly pronounce.
Aidez-moi, aidez-moi. Mais le lapin ne connaissait pas les mélodies du renard.
C'était un vol.
Sabiendo que ellos estarían allí una vez más. Desde luego, los amantes fueron al árbol y miraron a la poción. ¡Qué bueno! Necesito agua, dijo Corazana. No estoy seguro que es una buena idea beber la Corazana, le aconsejó Gaetano a Corazana.
This was a challenge for us to try to make something interesting for children to want to read and then try to make it look interesting as well.
Ella es flaca, es bonita desde el día de su nacimiento.
It was nerve-wracking because that's actually when you see if your story was what it was supposed to be or not. They had a lot of pressure to try to understand what we were telling them, and we had a lot of pressure to try to make it interesting for them as well.
¿Qué está pasando contigo? Corazana le preguntó a Luzca.
It was kind of like I was being graded by 3 people, my teacher and the 2 7th graders. I was just like, oh my goodness.
¿Por qué no me caen bien? Y les tenía celos. Ricardo quería tener amigos y quería ser como todos los conejitos. Esto era lo que quería y estar contento.
The process is happening. They were able to communicate. They communicated in Spanish.
El día de Pascuas era en 2 días.
They were scripted, but it was their own script. So they actually worked on what they were going to talk to these kids about, this fun story, or however. Actually, both their stories had a moral behind it, a lesson to be learned. And they got it.
The reading live was very nice. Even as you made some errors, which everyone does, the reading was really real. Because as we read, sometimes we skip a line or anything. You did exactly that and went right back to it and kept your eyes on your audience. It's the way to tell a story.
I think the feedback that she gives is very important. I think that it's nice to have sort of checkpoints in your project instead of just going through it and being on your own, because this is a very big deal. And you know it's a big deal because she wants you to get it just right and just perfect, and all the teachers do whatever they can to make sure that when you finally present it, it looks like it could be a really published children's book.
Classe, a dit le prof. Je vous présente Gaston.
It's definitely worth doing this type of assessment because students learn in different ways and they excel in different ways, and this gives them an opportunity to, if one doesn't excel in writing the story, they have a chance to produce the book, and that gives them a good feeling and encourages them to go on with their French. Or maybe somebody else is better at reading, and so they enjoy that part of it. It gives them a chance to really have something, concrete to hold on to and cherish and look back to in the future.
Les Trois Suets. Il y avait une fois un garçon qui habitait à la campagne. Il avait une bonne vie. Il avait 2 parents qui l'aiment beaucoup.
I looked around and I personally had some of those kids as 7th graders and 8th graders, so I see what they've accomplished. But I think the one thing that is kind of a nice side effect to this type of project and this type of experience that you don't really think about until it's all over is how you're creating a community of learners.
Je ne suis pas content. Je n'ai jamais su qu'être riche est très solitaire.
The more we learn about learning styles, learning strategies, multiple intelligences, we know that pencil and paper testing doesn't work for every learner. So when students are able in a language class to demonstrate what they know via multimodal methods, we're finding in classrooms and in some empirical research that students are performing better and their attitude and motivation about studying another language increases.
Finalement, il était content, très, très, très content. Enfin.
Oh, bravo, Kirkwa. Superbe.